This conference will now be recorded.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Marek, can you just confirm that I'm...
Yeah, you are C, so it's okay.
Yeah, good. Hello, everybody. Nice to be back. I will just show my face for everybody again. Hello. And I will click it down. I hope you're all well in these strange times. I heard that your country is opening up a bit more, so that's good to hear. So we will start with just a quick, brief summarization of last lecture, and then we'll go a little more detail about how to think when organizing training sessions and practices, and Q&As at the end and during as well. Just type in the chat. So let's go. We'll try to open up this. Just give me a second here. I will have to move some things on the screen. So we go briefly through this. My name is Tjursberg. I'm 37, former player in SSL and under 19, coach since 10 years, 6 years with Pixbo and Sweden's women's national team. Currently developing Swedish Florbal Federation as the new coach education there. So we talked about technique last time. We go briefly here with the shooting and the passing and the ball handling in game situations. So we talked about the soft, flexible hands and wrists with the soft touch and flexible hands and wrists controlling the blade in every direction. Which controls the ball in every direction. I showed you some video of me turning the stick with the fingers and just for getting this precision and accuracy in passing and shooting, and also with the wrists, the speed in passing and shooting, moving your wrists at high speed. And I think I told you last time how about getting precision and accuracy. You're using small muscles. I compared it to dart, I think, throwing a dart, that you're using your small hands and fingers, small muscles, and not your big muscles in core for getting accuracy. And also to be able to separate hands and arms from your body, that you don't have to move your whole body around for adjusting to a ball to get the blade to handle the ball. You can just move your hands and wrists instead of your whole body, which creates freedom to move on the court. So it's 1 and 2 hands, 360 degrees, being able to play with both the 1 and 2 hands and around the body gives you a lot of freedom. Moving with the ball, also 360 degrees, so you can go forwards in the sides and going backwards. 360 degrees around the body with your head up, with your vision up, seeing the play. We talked a little about this beautiful versus functional technique, the Sora moves, the toe drags, volley dribbles. This is the entertainment and it's important, but it's not the foundation of floorball. We talked about this effective and precise ball handling, shooting and passing. 1 and 2 hands, 360 degrees, heads up, handling the ball in high speed. And I told you about this 10 best players in the world, both men and women, and adding these Jendrik Bennis, Saug, Brayard players, all are great in functional technique and moving in high speed. They're not the most entertaining players, but they're most effective players. So to have good technique is be able to make good decisions in this complex game environment. Shooting, passing, we moved through this. So I ended last week with practice technique. So on your own, the one each player play with the ball, have fun with it, explore, and try to move the ball around the body and in different ways as much as possible. You can't get too much of that in besides your regular trainings or practices. In the trainings, not too much isolated, where more moving defenders to dribble against, less dribble the cones. And the primary goal, it should be with the technique, getting every player comfortable one-on-one. So getting every single player to be, okay, I don't need have to dribble you, but I can have the ball and make good decisions with you in my face. With the defender in my face. That's very much a key primary goal for a good efficient teamwork, team play. So many poor decisions come from not being comfortable one-on-one. And for long-term development, let the players fail and discuss solutions, and don't give them the solutions, just let them explore and let them find their way to how do this player want to solve different type of situations, more than coaches telling them to, you should do always this way. So that's where we ended, and now we continue. And I call this first part progress and development. Just a little bit basic theories in this progress and development. We go through a little bit about training, efficiency, and organization. We talk about isolated practice and complex practice, and we have some Q&A in the end if that's needed. So let's move into theories around progress and development. These are just basic theories. We start with this graph about, I believe that too many coaches are thinking about development and progress. It should be in this moving order, like always going a bit higher and higher and higher and higher. That's and the players as well, they look at, I need to get a little bit better every time. It's not okay for me to get worse or feel bad or feeling not that good. And the coaches are stressed as well if the players are failing. And we think about progress in this, like always being a bit better all the time. I don't think that's the truth. I think the progress and development more looks like this line. It's with highs, and you go down a bit, and then you go even higher, and you go down and a bit higher, so that you get this comforting, and you don't get so stressed if their players aren't succeeding all the time, if the team plays is not that good all the time. As long as the main trend is upwards, that's okay. You can go down as long as you know what you're working with. You have this tolerance and acceptance that everything can't go in straight line all the time. So just think about development and progress in this highs and lows rather than straight line. I also want to show this. I'm sure you've seen this a lot, about what you know, the knowledge, which is in the green circle, and the red is the unknowledge, the things you don't know. And to expanding knowledge, to progress, to develop, you need to stay in the area where the knowledge meets the unknowledge. So it's basically at the number 2 here in the borderlines between what you know and you don't know. If you stay too far out in the unknowledge, you get stressed, and you will lose confidence. And if you stay too much in the ones, what you know all the time, the easy parts, you will not develop and you will not progress. So just try to keep those two pictures with you all the time when you're planning and you're strategically moving ahead for the players and the teams as a coach. So training efficiency. How are we using the time on the field? The time is precious. I don't know how it works in Czech Republic, but in Sweden we can't just go down to the arena and say, we want to practice now. Even our Pixbo main teams, the SSL teams, are having difficulties to have as much practice as they want because there aren't too much arenas and field for us to play in. So every time we are on the field, we need to be efficient. So 4 typical issues, issues in a regular training when you come out and see whether it's Pixbo or it's another team or another country. I'm sure these are some typical issues you can look at. You can look at the warm-up, which I believe on the field could be too long without touching stick and ball. And there are other advantages with not having the stick and ball, but when developing stick and ball and technique, I try to use, especially for the juniors and the middle ages, younger players, if they want to go and running high knees and kick your butt and Indian jumps and whatever you call it, why can't they use the ball, stick and ball, as they do in it? So I try to have more running warm-ups with just stick and ball, handle the ball one hand, two hand. So they just, why couldn't they have the stick and the ball with them when they're doing this? Spending too much time with linear drills. And linear drills, we'll get back to that, is the main basic drills, you passing, shooting, no defenders, just these basic drills that every floorball team is using. And you're spending too much time with them and you're doing this in a slow tempo or not the highest tempo. That's another issue that we can address. Third issue is the game play on the practice and the training is only structured 5-on-5. So it's a real game with players taking the same old roles and behavior as they always do. So they're not expanding, they're not moving into this unknowledge circle of the red. They're just staying in the green circle all the time. Because the game is okay, we're going to play 5-on-5, you're going to have your playing center as always, you'll stay in the same areas and spaces that you used to go because you're supposed to win this next shift or game on the training. And if you keep doing this for a whole season after season, when are 5 players on the field going to be expanding their knowledge to the unknowledged? That's not a very efficient way to be progressing. It's an efficient way to practice what we all already know. So and at the last, physical training is used on the field where we're using the last 15 minutes of just running when we can do that after the practice. So we don't have to stay on the field to use physical training. So that's 4 main themes that you can address. You can look at your practices in general or at your clubs, how it's looking. So we go to cones and these linear drills. The linear drills, again, is just these basic running, passing, shooting, the ones everybody's doing. And the problem with these cones and linear drills is it's isolated practice. It's no or little context. And by context, we mean making decisions and adjusting and handling your opponent and searching for free spaces in general. So if we compare with learning to drive a car, and this is just a basic comparison, it's not exactly, but you start with maybe sitting behind the wheel. When you learn to drive a car, you just move the wheel and the gear and you press the gas and the brakes and you, okay, this is like, what am I supposed to do? Next step is you go to the parking lot and you drive around, no traffic, nothing, just getting this coordination in the parking lot. And the last step is moving into traffic. That's 3 basic steps of learning to drive a car. And if you if you use that in florbal, I would say that cones and linear drills are more or less like sitting behind the wheel. If you add opponents in these drills and make more complex drills, it's like moving into parking lots, and when you're playing the game, it's moving into traffic. So you make sure that you have to have this progress in your floorball development in the long run. In gameplay, it's not 5-on-5, but it could be 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-2, every sort of game. But the gameplay is, there's our goal, there's where we should score, and these are the spaces we want to get to. That's the sort of gameplay. And I believe that 13 plus years, we spend too much time behind the wheel, sitting behind the wheel, or driving in parking lots instead of driving in traffic, if you understand the analogy. When younger, we should be learning this basic technique of receiving and passing and shooting and handling the ball, but as we get older, we need to spend more and more time in traffic and in gameplay. So we go to organizing training sessions. So it's a basic checklist for organizing training. These are some points that I would use to see if are we having effective trainings or could we do better. So each individual player's time with the stick and ball. So it's just a basic, how much are our players using stick and ball, and how much are they standing in lines or drinking water or listening to the coach going through some theoretical stuff. So when we're on the field, we should be using the time with players, stick, ball, and preferably opponents as well. If isolated drills are used, these linear drills, think progress and make sure that the players are using the same technique in game on the same training. And the next is an example of a progress. Progress in training could be one-handed drills. You dribble around the cones with in stationary drills. Then you move into one-handed game. You play 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, one-handed. Just allowed to have the ball on one hand, and then you move into a full real game, and you as a coach feedback on when players are making one-handed moves and just exaggerating, so you get this progress of going from isolated drills to game with one hand to full game when you try to focus on these one-handed moves. Then you have a more sense of what should the players be learning this training session. And if no advanced moves or opponents is used in a drill, that you don't have this, okay, we're going to do this difficult dribble, or you're going to dribble this player here, try to use tempo and speed to increase difficulty. So if you're doing these regular drills, try to use speed and tempo to bring that up as much as possible to increase the difficulty. And you remember that warm-up and linear drills is just preparation, and it could be great, and it's necessary for every practice, and it's a preparation for learning. It's not learning itself, but it's important that they warm up, they have some sort of easier drills to get prepared for the game in every practice, I believe. So I think that's moving into some more practical ideas of how you can think about more drills and to fill each training. So isolated practice, stationary drills. And by these I mean maybe 1 or 2 players standing with a cone, or you're standing still, or you move a little bit. You do some sort of movement with the ball, you dribble cones, or you have this maybe volley tennis, 2 and 2 playing volley to each other. These are not passing, running, shooting, linear drills. So stationary drills. I could show you some of my drills, but I won't, since they are not any different from the one you can look at YouTube. If you just go to YouTube and I just search for floorball drills, and I were looking at this technique and tactics from floorball or Swiss. I see the Swiss junior hockey have some basic. These are just, they're just fine. I'm sure there are so many good drills if you want to explore that field, as long as they promote soft hands, head up, 1 and 2 hands, forehand and backhand, and 360 degrees around the body. There are no magic drill that you stand here, you do this, and you will become a great player. But these are just getting the players ready for playing the game against opponents later in the practice. And of course, getting aware of this: soft hands, heads up, 1 and 2 hands, forehand, backhand, and 360 degrees, that you become more aware of where the ball could be around you, and you can still handle the ball. But we have players that are extremely good at forehand, not really that good at backhand, but they manage. And if they manage around and being a great player, if they're not great in backhand, maybe that should be okay. So I don't think you should drill every player to be perfect in every sense of these skills, as long as they are able to handle the ball in gameplay. But a little tip I have, the last one here: use multiple balls, use several balls in practice. That could be, I find it quite interesting. I know that Oskar Lundin, former coach in Varberg, he's been in Switzerland for Alligator Malans, I think, a couple of years now. He's coming back to Sweden and be coaching Storvreta next season. You can look up him in YouTube, Oskar Lundin. He had some good drills with players dribbling 2 and 3 balls, just handling 2 and 3 balls at the same time, switching balls, moving around, doing their moves, but they be handling multiple balls. Or you could just put 5 players, make them run around, and they should pass 2 balls to make the 2 balls move between each other. So using the multiple balls will be more awareness of, okay, there's just not only 1 ball. I have to be more aware and of this more complex part of the drill. So just explore, but multiple balls, I think, is a good way to get the players to not only focus on one thing and be more ready in general for different type of actions in the field. But stationary drills, sure, do them, but make sure there's practice and progress in your training. That if you're focusing on, we're gonna have this 1-hand dribble, staying still, dribble a cone, use that in the next drills and use that in gameplay later, that same, so the players understand and be forced to use that technique in gameplay. We move to some examples of isolated drills that I will be using and have been using. Can't stress this enough. The isolated drills are there for a purpose. They get the player ready, and they should be used, but not to a great extent. But maybe 20 to 30, 40 minutes in a 90-minute session could be used for isolated drills. But the main part should be playing the game. But if you want to use isolated drills, follow the leader. It's a great isolated drill I've been using. I think there's one coach or a player is facing the whole group. So I've set the aerobic class, think aerobic class. There's one leader and the rest of the group is spread out, a little bit space between them. The group is just following the moves of the leader. One ball on each player, just follow the leader. If the leader goes to the right, the group goes to the left since it's mirrored. And if the leader goes forward, the group goes backwards. You can switch that around to get the players to be a bit confused. But basic idea: get every player to have a ball, they must look up and follow that leader's moves. You get 20 players having a ball, no standing in lines, no waiting for it's just good action. And this can be used as well, standing still, just dribble the ball, and if the players have the ball to the right, one hand, the other players should follow that leader and do the same thing. It's just follow the leader. And it promotes heads up. It could promote 360 degrees movements, 1 and 2 hands on the club, on the stick, 360 degrees around the body. It's a great way to get the training started and get everybody activated in all directions and get into their brains activated as well. We move forward. Another tip is in linear drills, no perfect passes. So which means in your regular drills, you could force the players to not play perfect passes. They should pass to the backhand or play bouncing passes every time. And this will make the drill look less good. And that could be stressful. It could be stressful for the players. It could be stressful surely for you as a coach or people watching, parents and something. This will make the players look a little less good. We won't have this good flow because they will have slower. It will be slower for them to adjust to the poor passes. But it would be a great promotion for adjusting speed to the ball, handling bouncing balls, receiving ball with 1 and 2 hands. It's just the game is not perfect. You don't get the ball on the stick every time. Of course, you should be always focusing on getting the ball to the blade in every pass, but that's not the way the game is looking. When the players can handle a drill, you always have the same drills. You get the perfect passes on the blade every time. Try to throw in, okay, now you do exactly the same drill, but now we play the bouncing passes, and you still try to keep up the tempo as high as possible, but you're forcing the players to move from their comfort zone. We go forward. In linear drills, make choices to run into different spaces. Another big problem with linear drills is that the players know exactly where the pass comes to. They know where to run, and that's not how the game is working. There's no game in the world that you're going to pass to this space every time you get the ball, or you're going to run to that space every time, and those teams will not be very good. So try to plan some drills where the players could go either this way or that way, or to this space or that space. You can just have the choice of 2 different spaces, maybe go to the far post or to the back post, or so you don't have to make this, you can run everywhere, but just make sure that there are some choices and different ways to move in the drill, because it promotes head up. The player who's going to pass needs to always put his head up and to see where is your receiving player moving. It requires timing and adjustments in speed and 2 different spaces, etc. And as in the last example, this will make the drill look less good. It's not going to be this high-flowing super tempo, but it's going to promote different things, and it's not going to be this like robotic movement. We always pass these, we always run these. It looks very good, but it's no challenge for them. More example of the isolated drills in the linear drills, just regular passing shooting. You can demand 2 or 3 touches in certain actions. I'm sure you have drills that you're doing all the time. The players are taking too much time on the ball. You would need to see, you want to see more effective ball handling. Try to think of ways to demand that when you get this pass, you receive first touch and you move second touch. So you receive pass with more demanding that you as a coach says this is just receive pass or shoot pass direct. The one-timers just shooting and passing. Just make sure that there are not too much. They run with the ball for several seconds and having these 5, 6, 7, 8 touches. If you can move away from this running with the ball, because that part they know. When they get a bit older, they for sure know how to run with the ball. So make sure that there's more receiving passing and there's more demanding, challenging of quicker and more effective ball handling. I'm sure that I've just twisted around some of my basic drills for just moving a line or two to make the more effective, more speed and more quicker effective ball handling. So just think about your regular drills where you can demand less touches. We move forward. Also in linear drills, add a complex move off the ball. So when the players are running longer runs, add when off the ball, when not having the ball, you can add a complex move to increase the difficulty. I regularly use the spin move, just turn around 360 degrees, continue, or you can change the club behind the back. Stick is just said. Club is Swedish. I will fix that right away so we don't get confused. Change stick behind the back. Just take the stick behind the back and while they're running, because it's added something that is not regular, and they get to think and they have to do this body and stick adjustments in high speed. So just think of where you can throw in, like, okay, now you have to do the spin move when you're running and you're receiving the pass. So this I think you can use and throw in. I do this all the time with both men's and women's team, that easy passing drills, but they have to spin and change the stick between their legs and behind their back before they pass the ball forward. But I think you should try to do this while they don't have the ball. So they pass, they make the move, and then they get the pass back and they shoot, for example. Yes, so that was some just basic ideas how you can twist and turn and think about your linear basic drills and your stationary, just to make them a little more complex, a little more challenging for your players. So we get to this complex practice, and what you are not getting from cones and linear drills is, come back to this all the time, it's the 1 versus 1 situation where you have to read where is the opponent's stick, how is the opponent placing their feet, how is the opponent weighting his body. So that's basically, or her body, I'm sorry. So that's basically what I need to be aware of when I'm playing against a player, that the cones and the linear drills are never gonna ask these questions. And the good players are great at answering these questions. Where is the stick? Where is the feet? How is the body weight? Where do I move from this situation? And this is what players in general need to practice much more than these cones and linear drills. And of course, I wrote an X versus X. Of course, 2-on-2, 3-on-3s, 4-on-4s, and etc. All the complex decisions in the game. Where are the free dangerous spaces? And do I pass, dribble, or shoot? That's the main part of getting technique to function in this complex environment, which is the game. And the last page is the most important, which is playing the game complex practice. So I wrote first cultural challenges. I don't know how it is in Czech Republic, but in Sweden and in many other Western civilization societies, there's less and less organized plays at home. So the kids and the young people not playing at home as much as we did when I was growing up. I was living out on the street, playing the games, playing football, playing basketball, playing floorball outside. We don't see that much right now. And there's more specialization in an early age. We only play one sport when we should be playing several sports. And all the sports federations, I think, are addressing this quite good right now. There are a lot of discussion in this in all the big sports around the world. So we need to address this cultural challenges of how is the youth cultural growing up, and how is sports are going to develop from that cultural challenges. So basic, we need to play when we practice, and we need to play 1-on-1, 2-2, 3-3, 4-5, 5-5, and everything between. You can play 5 against 3, 3 against 5, you name it, just mix and have fun, but encourage the players to use the tools from your isolated drills. So that's an enormous problem. It's so huge problem that you are using, you're having these great isolated drills. They're practicing in good isolated technique, different moves, and as soon as you step into some sort of playing situation, they all go back to their regular habit role, the behavior they are always having. The player who is a star is always getting the ball, and 2 or 3 other players only have one role, is pass the star. It functions that way from the highest elite level to the lowest youngest players, that as soon as we get more and more players and we're playing the game that we need to score, we pass the player who is the best at scoring, and you don't use the tools that you have been practicing in your isolated drills. So that's the coach's absolute biggest task, is to make sure more players are using their whole toolbox and developing their skills rather than passing to someone else all the time. So some rules and limitations that I'm using, for example, in gameplay, it's a great way to force them to use the practice tools, the techniques. One hand play. Force the play. Every player can only use one hand. Great fun way to make one hand practice more effective and in game play. Great way to practice is having these 1 touch or 3 touches mixed within a team. So we often play 4 against 4 on a smaller court, 4 against 4. 2 of the players can only play 1 touch, and 2 of the players can have 3 touches, as many as they want. And every time they go switch with a player, they just tell, okay, I have 1 touch. The player who comes in just have 1 touch as well. So if you switch with a 1-touch player, you're the one player who has 1 touch. If you're switching with the 3-touch players, you have 3 touch. So there's always 2 players every time on the court playing with 1 touch, 2 players playing with 3 touches. And you can have do that 3 against 3 as well, 5 against 5. But it's just this mixture of some of the players needs to play really fast, and the other players needs to think about, okay, I have the ball. How do I not put my 1-touch players in a poor situation? And it's just a great mixture of different decisions that the players are going through. Third example, only backhand passes. You can only play backhand passes. You can add that to one player or for every players, but just a great way to add difficulty in the game situation. And it's really fun to mix this, that one player is playing one-handed, one player is playing with one touch, and one player is playing with only backhand, and maybe the fourth player is playing 3 touches. So we have 4 different sorts of players on the field at the same time, and they have to think about how to maneuver the ball in the most effective way to score. As a 4, I put use a joker, and the joker is a player who is always with the team who has the ball. So we often, very often, play 4 against 4, and we add the joker, who's a player who has a yellow bib vest, and he is only playing with the team who has the ball. So the team who has the ball is always 5 on 4, but we always force that, okay, you're 5 against 4, you need to score, you need to score, you need to score. No standing like playing in power play, just go for the shot and go for the attacking. And as soon as they lose the ball, the joker is on the other team and he can go on the other way. So it's a really great way to be aware of your privileges and your great spaces you can use when you are counter-attacking, for example. You can double the score for 1 touch assist, 1-timer goals. You can throw in volley goals and just double the score, make the players want to score in a certain way to promote a certain action. And there are 100,000 of ways to fantasize along these rules and limitations, but make sure that more of the practices is focused on playing the game with some rules and limitations rather than running and playing these linear drills and stationary practices. And the last one here, get everyone involved. I can't stress that enough. When we have the ball, all the players want to score. When defending, everyone defends. And that's just a basic rule that I think every team should have, regardless if they're 6 years old or 50 years old. When we have the ball, all the players are attackers. When we are defending, all the players are defenders. And make sure that you activate all the players, activate all their tools, and because that way you have long-term development and progress. This you're not using this when preparing for an important game in the final of the season. You're not going to play a lot of backhand passes in the practices, but in general, this should be more focuses during the seasons of getting this long progress, long-term development, long-term progress. So that's basically the way, in general, I see how practices and trainings needs to be focused more in these ways. Certain drills, certain stationary drills, certain linear drills. There are so many examples out there, so just pick one, go with that one, go with what the players are having fun with, that they are using in their gameplay, but make sure that all the practice you're doing, you're progressing and making that into the gameplay on every practice. That's more and more important than having these 50 drills that no one uses when you comes to gameplay anyway. If you have any questions later or just whenever, feel free to contact me, tjursberg@hotmail.com. It's just send an email. I'm be happy to discuss and be learning from you as well. So basically, that's what I had in general to say about this, getting the trainings to be a little more effective in development and progress. If there are any questions, just feel free to write them in the chat. Mark, do you have any rounding up here?
Yeah, I have some questions about
what
is your favorite rule for move the players without the ball?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, I have. Actually, I have one more. That's it's a little difficult. So this that comes from the top of my head right now. I can add this here as well. Is the Barcelona rule rules, and that is. Before I go to the Barcelona rule, I will take that just in a second. Another great way to get the balls the players moving is using a joker, because using a joker, you're always one more player when you have the ball. So that should be, otherwise it's just, okay, we're going to lose the ball, I'm going to stay here. You just make sure that they are running, and you just try to not get them into this, okay, I'm right defender, I'm left defender. They need to start move, and you need to just make sure that we don't care if we let one in, or in practices, just make sure that they want to score, they want to score, they want to score. Every player wants to score. No one can stand in behind. Make sure that maybe everyone needs to be over on the offensive court if a goal should be allowed. If you have to move the whole team, those sorts of ideas. But the Barcelona rules are promoting really, really quick decisions, and you have to move off the ball all the time, because as long as you have the ball, if you are getting touched by a hand of a opponent, the defender, you have to let the ball leave the ball to the other team. So it's to break to break a pass or anything, you don't have to do that. You just have to touch the player. So you always have to move. You have to be aware of where are your defenders, and you have to move the ball and your feet all the time. So this encourages great speed in the practice. And for little less skilled players, I would maybe play 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 with quite big playing area. But for our top teams, elite teams, we can play this 4-on-4 on quite tight spaces, and they always have to be aware of where's the player, where do I move the ball. As long as I get touched with a hand, I have to leave the ball to the opponents. So it comes from Barcelona, I guess. I picked it up several years ago from the Barcelona Football Academy, I guess. And it's been with me all the time, and it's a tough and demanding. It's much more difficult than playing the real game, but as long as the second you move from Barcelona to regular play, the players feel that they have more time to make decisions and time with the ball. But it's a great way to really bring up the speed and to bring up the brains, and they need to think about the opponents all the time. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. Second question is about, do you have some ratio between the how many isolate exercise and how many complex exercise have to in training?
I would say as a general rule, you need to have at least 50% complex real playing practice. So 50-50, and if you can go for like 60, 40, 70, 30, and so the more you can play with quality, and the players are feeling this is fun, we want to do this. In some teams, they want to have drills, they think that it's fun. It's fun to do stationary drills. Of course, you need to do that, and I think you have to have some at lower, younger levels. You need to have some stationary linear drills just to make sure that every player gets time with the ball, because that's the problem with complex game drills and training, is that you can't have one-on-one, one play, one ball ratio. So Of course, you need to put in some stationary drills or linear drills, but make sure it's 50-50 and more playing 60-40, 70-30. But in general, make sure that you're having more isolated drills than you are playing the game. That because I see that in Pixbo, I see that in some teams everywhere, that okay, we can play 20 minutes at the end of a 90-minute session. That's just that's not good. That's not good.
Yeah. Okay, and you just told about that 13 years plus we are spending time in isolates practice.
Yeah.
And that means for you that 13 and under, so under 13, it's okay if they are in isolated skills?
I think in general, that's just that the younger they are, the more they should be focusing on getting these basic skills of running, passing, shooting, dribbling, and the more you can. In an ideal world, every sport, every club, every team is just so good at getting this basic fundamental technique in the younger years. So after 13 years old, we don't have to do anything of this. I think that when they are 15 years old, we should not be spending 1 minute on isolated drills in a perfect world. So in the younger years, is make sure that they are getting these fundamentals of handling the ball, so that when the older they get, the more complex can their practicing become. So it's in general that make sure you put the foundation first. Every player can handle the ball, can handle the one-on-one situation, playing against one defender, and then you add the complexity to the game the older they get.
Okay, and how you actually work with these small details in a team trainings?
Yeah, that's the challenge for sure. First, I think you should need to be aware of each individual, what they need to work at. So if you have, say, 15 minutes of, okay, we're going to use this to more stationary drills, more individual technique, should all the players be practicing the same? Or should one player, okay, you need to work on your one-handed plays with the backhand, get some drills for that player? Should be one player be using the shot? The more you can specialize, the better, for sure. But I think that's discussing with your players off the court as well. Okay, when you're at home, can you be doing this? Just going. I've told my players, when you're watching your favorite show, can you stand with the ball and doing like these small movements, one-handed, or balancing the ball on your blade, just to get the soft hands going a bit more. So try to be creative, because the more we spend, I think we should spend on-field practice with the team as much as possible with the complex playing drills. So try to be creative and use time off the court, off the field, to get the players to have the ball. That's the most. They need to enjoy playing with the ball. When I was little, I was going like to school and home from school with the ball, just playing with the ball. That's just so great. Balls bouncing on the asphalt, and you get so much for free when you just want to have the ball and play with the ball, because it's fun to have the ball. And that's a challenge. I don't know. At least you can't just bank it into the head that this is fun to have the ball. You need to be creative and try to. And I think it's more fun to have the ball if you understand in game situations how to use the ball. Then it becomes fun to have the ball. And I think way too many players are not having fun with the ball, because when it comes to game situations, they are not allowed to do this, they are not allowed to do that. The teammates or the coaches are telling them, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. how is that fun to have the ball off practice when you get this negative feedback all the time when you have the ball? So this is just cultural. How do you want to approach a player who is trying to learn and to progress with the ball? That's just so much more important than which drills are we using to do progress. That's not that important comparing to the culture of development.
Thank you. Somebody else, do you have some questions? Okay, maybe I have one more question about how to work with the space. And so, for example, I know that in Finland they just try to do that. You split the field on, for example, 4 smaller field. But and if you are in one, not field, but in one square, nobody else or for your teammates can be in the same square. So did you use it too, or something like this?
Yeah, that's I think Finland could be coming. I'm not sure, but I think they could be longer in their progress of the questions of space and how to learn players relating to spaces. I'm sure. I don't think that we in Sweden have come a long way in this development. The way I see it, I'm not quite fond of these rules that there can only be one player in this square here or one place. For me, it's just get every player to understand where can I score. Is this a good place to score in, or is this a good place to get the pass from the player who has the ball? And I think if you should focus much more when coming and learning about spaces. You should focus much more on playing 2 and 2, 3 and 3, not much more than 2 and 2, 3 and 3, 4 and 4. It's too much for space focus, I think, in general. 2 and 2, 3 and 3. Make sure that they relate to the opponents. Where do I become free to get the pass, and where do I want to score, or where is my next space I want to move into? That's basically it's not much more difficult than that when you come to game. If you think about it logically, it's just where do we score, or where can we get a good pass to score in next situation. The problem with having these rules that there can only be one player in one space is then you're putting it's sure there could be good ideas in that too, but the main thing you are doing that you are telling players you cannot go there, you cannot go there, you cannot go there, and they have to relate where can I go, and that's not the game. The game is you can move every square inch of the playing field in a real game. So try to be just lessen the spaces that you're playing on, playing 2-2, 3-3, but don't say to players you can only stay in this space when there's a whole space you can use. I'm telling my players, you don't have. I see some of my players are running around looking at where are my teammates, because they don't want to run into the same space as the teammates. And I don't want my players to running around spending energy and time and focus watching where can I not go. The only focus they should have in gameplay is where do I find a free space, and where do I score, or where do I move into a greater space that I already have. And this is something that I've talked to some of the Czech players that I've been using, been practicing over the years. That some of them are just okay. Can I go there? Can I go there? There's a player. There's already a teammate going to that space. don't care about that. You just focus the opponent, the player has the ball, and where do I want the ball to? And if there are 2 players running to the same space, okay. If it's a free space, we can have 2 players there. That's not a big issue. I'd rather have 2 players there than none of the players, because they are just focusing on where are my teammates, and I can't go there. I can go there. You can go wherever you want. In general. Then when the more complex the game gets, the more elite, of course, you can have, you're going to these spaces, you're going to these spaces. But as a general space rule and space practice, try to play 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 3-on-2, 4-on-2, just to promote free decision making regarding spaces. But sure, there could be more advanced ways to practice this that I don't know about, but I don't think that's just a sub principle for the main principle. Move into free spaces where that is good and that you want to score from.
Okay, so okay, I have a last question, and maybe it's a last question totally. It's about inspiration. And what is your favorite exercise or complex exercise?
What in what
What is your favorite?
Yeah,
so
you disappeared for
exercise actually.
Of all the exercises.
Yeah, for all.
Oh, my favorite. I'm gonna have to say, of course, it's the 4 isolated drills. It's this follow the leader, the first one I talked about, because it's 1 ball, 1 player, and you're moving 360 degrees. You can do so much in a short period of time. You get everybody to move the ball and their heads in these all their directions. And then for complex practice, for sure, the Barcelona rules and the mixture between 1 touch and 3 touches, 1 hand play, 2 hand on the club, everything that promotes like high speed or low speed, because you have to have the ball and take good decisions. That's just, these are my favorites, I guess. But all the complex practices I've discussed here is if we were to get the players from 13 years old playing these from till they're 18, 19, we've had so much good players. And as long as you get the players, everybody to be involved, everybody to have the courage to do your best and use the tools that you're practicing on or that you are good at, instead of just passing the player that you're always passing, or do what you're always doing. And we should have like 15 players on a team that can score 30 goals a season. That's my goal, because I think that's possible. If everybody wants to score, everybody wants to be involved in 100%. But it starts early, and everybody needs to be having these fundamentals of passing, shooting, dribbling, so that when they are older, 14, 15, 16 years old, that they can use this in all this complex environment.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure.
So, and we actually keep in touch. So
yeah,
thank
for
you,
sure.
thank you everybody.
Take care, everybody.
And yeah, and have a nice day. Bye bye.